So good morning everyone. So I'm going to talk to you about Power BI. So just in case you didn't catch my introduction earlier, I'm Ken Starbuck. I'm the Senior Service Delivery Manager with Incremental Group. I joined the company in February of this year. I think I've met a fair number of you in discussions about the plans that we have to move people to more of a fixed price model for service delivery. If not, I'll be knocking on your door soon to talk about that. But one of the topics I'm also involved in with Incremental Group is Power BI. So this is something that came up in our discussions with customers was, when talking about moving to Dynamics 365 or Office 365, Power BI was always linked to that. And it felt a bit like a kind of byproduct, oh, by the way, you can also start looking at Power BI, but actually, it offers quite a lot of advantages, and it's quite a powerful tool. So I think in terms of why we're looking at this in terms of AX is you've probably gone through the kind of hard work of implementing your AX system, of getting your data sorted, and then you're looking at trying to make some insight out of the data that you've got in your system, and that's good. You can do that, and you have that kind of slightly siloed view of your data. But there are probably other systems in your business that have data as well, and where the real value in your data analytics is being able to link those data sources together to look at insights that you probably wouldn't have realized before by joining up different data sets. So I think this is where the crux of Power BI kind of comes in, and we'll go on to talk about that. So in terms of an introduction to Power BI, it was originally unveiled to the community in September 2013, and it's based on the Microsoft Excel add-ins of Power Query, Power Pivot, and Power View, which was then subsequently released to the public in July of 2015. And it's got a real kind of community aspect behind it. So when it was released in 2013, there was quickly a community of people that were working with Microsoft to move the product forward. That's really been taken forward, and there's a monthly release cycle now for Power BI where the product is moving forward every month with new visualizations, new features, new functionality. And really following that model that I think Microsoft's using now of continual improvement rather than big 6-monthly or annual upgrade cycles. So in terms of what it is, it's a cloud-based data analytics, data analysis which can be used for reporting, data analysts from a wide range of data sources. So this is the definition from Microsoft. So what we're saying there is it's cloud-based, it's relatively new, but has already developed into quite a powerful, mature feature set. And the idea, I think, is that when you've been looking at business intelligence up to now, you've probably looked at having to implement a data warehouse and then having to look at putting something like SQL reporting services or other analytics packages on top of that. And sometimes there's quite a long period from that investment in implementing all of that to then seeing some kind of return in the reports that you can then generate. Then you might find that the reports aren't actually telling you what you wanted to in the first place, and you have to go back through that cycle again. Whereas I think Power BI is that step towards putting the power of designing the reports back into the hands of the user, or the person that is looking to gain that insight. And I'll come on to talk about how it does that. So why choose Power BI? So first of all, it's easy to use. So I was touching on it there, that the whole goal is that you shouldn't have to really be that technical to be able to create reports. So you understand your data. As long as you understand your data, the tool is then presenting you with how to display that. So you're choosing your visualizations, you're connecting that to your data. You don't need to be a developer to be able to create these reports. Easy to share. So the integration with the cloud aspect of this is that once you have created your reports, you then want to share that with other people. So what this is attempting to do is to say, well, historically you'll probably have gone into your meetings with a 20 PowerPoint slide deck and a printed report to be able to present to management the figures and be able to address any questions. Now, well, why don't you just create your Power BI report and then share it with the group, and then actually be able to drill down to that report in real time so that you're not having to print out these big reports or generate a lot of PowerPoints, etc. in advance. Easy to understand, so you're able to set up Power BI in your language, in your terms, so it's not like you're having to translate between a term that Power BI is enforcing on you. You can call it what you are used to calling it within your organization. And then the powerful tool set, so if you're already used to using Power Query, Power Pivot, a lot of the terminology is already the same within Power BI, so it should translate quite easily into being able to do the same sort of things. And it's cross-platform, so once you then have your reports, you can then access them on iOS, Android, Windows devices through the apps that are there. So I'm not going to go too technical, but just to touch on the components of Power BI. So the key part of Power BI is really the Power BI desktop. So that's the downloadable client. You can download that, and that's what you use to build the reports. Now, before you get onto the organization levels, you can download that tool for free. You also have a free account at the starter level of Power BI, and that's really if you're interested in publishing reports for your own consumption. The cost really comes in when you want to then collaborate or send that out to the wider business. So Power BI Desktop is all about creating data sets. So first of all, you have to connect to your data. Now Power BI helps with that in that there are a library of pre-existing data connections there, so you can select Dynamics 365, and there's a nice wizard that will take you through putting in the URL for your instance and your authentication mechanism, etc. The other thing that data sets can do is you can have on-premise file sources. So, we accept that not everyone's moved to the cloud yet. You're still likely to have a fair number of on-premise data sources, whether those are SQL databases or file stores or just Excel files. So you can install Power BI Gateway on your company network. And what that does is it provides an interface for Power BI to be able to query those data sets securely and surface the data through Power BI. The other thing as well is you have a library of all of the other Microsoft online cloud services, so SharePoint, Dynamics 365, Azure, OneDrive. So even if you've got Excel files, you can still store them in OneDrive and be able to query them from Power BI. Once you've got your data set, you then generate your reports. So you have multi-tabbed reports where you can put your graphs, you can put your narrative, you can put your imagery, you can tell your story. And then once you've done that, you can then create your dashboards. And once that's all been done, that's all surfaced through the Power BI website, and that can be consumed through the various mobile applications. So one of the key benefits is something that Kevin touched on earlier is, once you've gone to the effort of creating your report, you then want to say, well, actually, we can share this to the wider business. So one way you can do that is through content packs. So you've created all your data sources, you've done the hard work, you've renamed all your fields to be what you call it within your business. You've created your report, you've created your dashboards. You can now publish that out as a content pack. And that can be made available through AppSource. So you effectively have like a marketplace for your business, so that the next time a colleague logs in, they can go to AppSource and see, there's a content pack being made available for that particular topic. And they can then download that and they could amend it if they want, or they can just receive updates to it if that content pack is updated subsequently. So one of the other benefits you get if you move to Office 365 is, well, I'll come on to that in a minute, but this was just a kind of narrative showing the life cycle of a content pack. It's probably a bit small, but you'll be able to see it when you can download the slides. In Power BI Pro, we have someone in the marketing team, Nate, who creates a content pack. They then publish that out to the corporate marketplace. We then have Nate sending an email to the distribution list that is associated with the marketing group, so that might be in Office 365. And you have a Power BI Pro user, Jane, who's a member of the marketing distribution list, who connects to that content pack from AppSource and downloads it. Now she can then decide to customize that, in which case she's now got her own version. She might tweak it for a particular purpose that she's interested in. But then Nate also publishes the dashboard out, and there's another user, Jake, who downloads just that update. So you've now got Jane, who's got her own version. You've got Jake, who's got the shared version. And then, at the end, you can then decide to delete that content pack. So the organizational one is gone. Jake's lost his access, but Jane still has her own version of it that she can then continue to customize. So as I was saying, one of the benefits if you move to Dynamics 365 is there are actually 3 content packs available already that you can download. These are quite useful just to give you a kind of starting position to be able to customize. So there's a financial performance content pack, there's a retail channel performance content pack, and a cost management content pack. So these are designed out of the box for Dynamics 365 and are fairly easy to set up. So this is what they look like. So this is the financial performance content pack. Then retail channel. And lastly, the cost management content pack. So as I said, these are quickly, easy to set up and give you a good starting point to be able to take forward. The other thing we were thinking about is, well, what about AX 2012 or 2009, which a lot of you are on? There's nothing to stop you using Power BI. You don't have the nice wizard out of the box way of setting up the data sources, but you can install Power BI desktop. You can install Power BI Gateway as part of your on-premise solution or hosted solution if you have it in a data center. And you can use the OData query service for Dynamics AX to then be able to connect to your data. And then you'll be able to then generate your reports. So you could start doing that straight away. Another benefit of the Power BI side of things is the community, as I said, and there's a gallery for visualizations. So out of the box with Power BI, you get a library of fairly standard visualizations, pie charts, bar charts, etc. And that is growing all of the time. So I noticed the other week they've now added in support for ArcGIS, mapping, etc. But you also have a library where the community has developed other visualizations. So there's a number of them here, bubbles, scatter charts. You can also bring in your own iconography. So rather than bar charts, you could have it be, a number of cars, and there's icons of cars, etc., that it uses to do it. So this is really helping to make the visual experience of Power BI quite impressive. Now, something that we'll make available as part of the content that you'll be able to access is there's a really great video on YouTube from Microsoft about storytelling with Power BI. So there's been a real push, I think, in the last few years in business intelligence to move away from just presenting lots of pages of graphs to trying to tell a story with that data. So trying to understand what the data is telling you and then trying to convey that to your audience. And the video's really good at showing what you can do with Power BI, but also I think at the end of it, it's an engineer from the Power BI team talks about how he uses data to buy a house. So he downloads disparate data sets in Seattle of crime statistics, house prices, land values, and joins them all up to be able to find what the optimal place is to buy a house in Seattle. So some examples of Power BI. So in terms of content for Power BI or good content, there's actually quite a rich forum of existing examples that other users have set up. So this is one of those examples. So it was actually, I think, Microsoft and another company that partnered to run a survey of the Power BI user community on productivity and the factors that affect productivity for different age ranges. So this was a question as to whether productivity is important to happiness, and that was what was asked across the different age ranges. So you can then click within the Power BI report onto the different age ranges to then filter the graph, what it should do, yeah. And start to draw some interesting conclusions But there's also tabs, so you can go through into further detail. So we can see that, for the 18 to 21-year-olds, distractions is a key part of affecting their productivity. But for the 45 to 54-year-olds, that's not so much, it's more interruptions. So this provides a very visual, very intuitive, easy to use interface to be able to drill down into your data. The other example that I've got is more of a business focused one. So this is a sales revenue trend report. So something you can do with Power BI is you can click on the graphs to be able to drill down. Although this one's not going to do it. But you can click down onto the bar charts and drill right down into the data that's underpinning that. So quite quickly you can build up very visual, very intuitive graphs and reports that I think will be useful to your business. Okay. So something that's important at Incremental Group is we practice what we preach. So one of my first jobs within the company was to look at adopting Power BI as our corporate data reporting platform. So this is one of our reports. This is our utilization report that we use weekly. So this is generated from our timesheeting system. So the scenario we've got is we have an on-premise SQL 2008 database. Our timesheets are submitted into that database weekly. Job codes are mapped to utilization categories, and this report is then generated, from that data. I then publish this report to the operations work group. So there's then security around who can access this data, and we can set up a data refresh schedule so that this data is updated hourly with any other timesheet information that maybe came in late. And this is used by our management team to be able to look at the utilization of our staff. And it relatively wasn't that difficult to set up. It's using most of the components of Power BI. And we're really looking now to move forward with standardizing this as our corporate reporting mechanism going forward for all of our systems. Okay, so how do you get Power BI? So Power BI is semi-independent of Office 365. So when I was researching yesterday, there is still, I think, and Kevin might correct me, there's one plan where Power BI is actually included with Office 365, and that's the Enterprise E5 plan, I think. It's also sort of related to Dynamics 365 Enterprise Edition. In terms of you get a Power BI embedded license. And what that means is that you can use Power BI to surface data through something like a web application or a website or something like that. The other options for using Power BI is that there are kind of three levels. So there's an author level, which is just as I said before, you can download Power BI Desktop. That's free to use. It allows you to connect to hundreds of data sources. So this is really if you're just starting out and wanting to know more about Power BI, you'd probably start at that level, or you only have one or two individuals that need to author reports. When you come to share and collaborate, you're then looking at Power BI Pro, which is around about the $9.99 a month per user. And that gives you a certain amount of storage space for your report data per user in the cloud. As part of your Office 365 subscription. And it allows you to create reporting groups, which will then create a security group associated with that to be able to share content. And then when you get onto large scale deployments, you're looking at Power BI Premium, and that's a capacity pricing model. So we need to understand your requirements to be able to then speak with Microsoft about what the cost implications of that would look like. So you've really got the three levels. So this is, as I was saying, Power BI Embedded, which you get with Dynamics 365 on a Plan 2 license. So again, just saying that you can have your developer that generates the reports, connecting to your Azure or SQL databases, and you can surface then the reports through your web application or your website or whatever web mechanism you want to surface those reports.